Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Fudge the Data.
Oh yeah.
Science will save the day. Science, let's shout hooray! The world gets better every day because of science! Science!
Alright, hello. You're here with your co-host Simon
And Loay.
and this week we're gonna talk to you a bit about the common
The
cold.
common cold. We both have colds. Well, no, I have a cold.
He's got a cold. He wants to give me a cold. He's been coughing all day all over me. It's been great.
Yeah.
So last week we talked to you a bit about the seasons, how they change, a little bit of fun stuff about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so just following up on season changing. Everybody's sick around campus and around town, so we thought it would be a good idea to kind of discuss that and delve deeper into the causes and such about colds and flus.
Yeah, let you know what it is, what's happening, what's actually going on in your body. You know a bit about what you can do to help it, and yeah, we'll see what happens with this.
We'll see how it goes.
With everybody getting sick, it's a great time of year.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just delve right into it,
Yeah, let's jump right in.
just what is a cold. So yeah, what is a cold? It's basically just any kind of host of respiratory illness.
Any malaise, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty. Everybody's had a cold. There's so many kinds. Nobody enjoys it. It's always awful.
Yeah, if you've had a cough and a sore throat and a headache, you've had a cold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it's a cold is just a word we use to. It's an umbrella term basically that we use to just kind of talk about any kind of upper respiratory illness that's really not that serious. It's got a whole host of symptoms. The kind of things that everybody knows and everybody's gone through. The cough, your sore throat, your runny nose, sneezing, all that kind of fun stuff. Also less commonly, but often seen in colds. I always get all of these. You can get a fever, you can get a chill, you can get sore muscles. I always get a sore upper back.
I
don't
got
know.
sore joints as well.
Sore joints,
Yeah.
kind of annoying things like that. Fatigue or malaise, just being sad and tired. And headaches. I get bad headaches.
I don't get headaches much, but
Yeah, and loss of appetite is also a big one to get with colds. Yeah.
And then you have the man cold, where the man
Of
exaggerated
course.
1,000 times
yeah.
than it really is.
Yeah, you have a cold and you collapse on the ground and flail and seize up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just because we don't like having colds. Nobody likes having colds. So basically the effects of a cold, all it is really is, it's a viral infection. And it's pretty much always viral. There's very few actually bacterial infections that cause a cold, but bacteria can infect you afterwards.
Right, because they just make your body a bit weaker and more susceptible to bacterial infections.
Yeah, but a cold is generally a viral infection of your nose, of your throat. So when it gets worse, it can go into your lungs, but that's kind of the bad stuff.
Yeah, but I think we'll touch on that a bit later. So like Simon was saying, the term cold just describes the symptoms you get from these viral infections in your bodies. And like he mentioned, there are many, many, many different kinds of viruses that can infect you and cause these symptoms, which are known as the common cold. Mm-hmm. So do you want to talk about your favorite kind of viruses that causes the cold, or any of you?
My favorite kind?
Yeah.
Well, my favorite kind, of course, is the rhinovirus. That's the one we were talking about this earlier, and as we were planning our show, we were trying to remember the kinds of viruses that cause colds, and he thought of one, and I always think of rhinovirus. It's the main one. It's the one that causes about 10 to 40%. I think it's about 40%
it's the most
common colds. Yeah. And it's just it's a stupid little virus that gets around.
Yeah.
What's your favorite kind of virus?
I like the coronavirus.
Oh, of course you do.
Just because it sounds like corona.
Corona, yeah. You're a man who loves his corona. Yeah. So that one's not as prevalent, but it's still. I think it's the second.
It's the second most common
biggest one.
Yeah. So just tell us some more about the rhinovirus, if you.
About the rhinovirus, sure. I guess we can get a bit more into how viruses actually affect you a bit later. But the rhinovirus, it's the main virus that affects people. It's a small little circular virus that has its RNA inside a little protein capsule, and it gets in It attaches to your epithelial cells and
Right.
it starts going at it.
Yeah. Do you know why it's called the rhinovirus, or is there a specific reason for that?
I think now don't quote me on this, but I think rhino is it's Latin or something for nose.
Oh, is it?
Because
Okay, yeah,
like
that makes a lot of
like
sense,
a
yeah.
rhinoplasty
Yeah.
is a nose surgery.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Ah,
And like
okay.
a rhino, rhino,
Yeah.
the animal, which is big.
That makes a lot of
Big
sense
horn.
because the coronavirus, it's a similar virus, and it's called the coronavirus because when you see it under the scanning electron microscope,
It looks like
or
a
the TEM, there's a
looks
halo
like a bottle
around
of
it.
Corona
Yeah.
with a lime sticking out.
Yeah, corona is Latin for crown or halo.
Oh, really?
So yeah, when you take a picture of it under the electron microscope, there's a halo around the virus itself, and that's because of some proteins sticking out of it.
Oh.
They cause this fuzzy halo around the virus. So
Wow.
that's why it's called the coronavirus.
So it's a royal virus.
Yeah, it's a royal virus. Yeah.
So those are our favorite kinds, but there's over 200 types of viruses that affect humans in a way that we would call a cold. There's a couple other ones. There's like influenza, which people often know as flu, but it also causes cold because really a flu is little more than a severe cold. I mean, it's a different virus.
Yeah.
It's the influenza virus or other kinds, but it's pretty much just a bad cold. There's also adenovirus. They cause about 5% of colds, and there's human parainfluenza virus, which is again it's just like a worse one.
Yeah. And there's also one called short of RSV, or the respiratory syncytial virus. This one here can be a bit more serious. It's just another type of viruses or a group of viruses that also cause the cold, and they have slightly different symptoms, and they affect mostly young children, like babies. And
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's another thing to think about with colds is that they affect the children and elderly more and often worse than they do some people like our age, adults, young adults, or people in the prime of their immune systems.
yeah, I forgot what the number was, but children below a certain age get 20 colds a year or something like that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
young adults get
I have a
6
couple
or-
numbers. So it's
Okay, yeah.
adults get 2 to 3 colds a year, and that,
Yeah.
that's pretty standard. I probably get about 2 to 3. I think I tend to have a cold at the season changes. At fall and at spring, I
Yeah,
usually
I
get
tend
a
to
cold.
have 2 colds a year.
Yeah,
so,
two
yeah.
2 to 3. Yeah. So and children apparently get about 6 to 12.
Get them all.
Yeah, 6 to 12. That's not pleasant. I remember being a kid and having a cold.
you
You
always
just have it
just
constantly.
about the whole winter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like-
winter is cold.
Like you don't even know what it is to be healthy anymore after a little while. You just constantly have a cold.
Yeah.
But yeah, colds, they're self-limiting, which is kind of a nice thing about them. They last 10 days, 10 to 15 days,
Yeah, a couple of weeks, a
yeah.
week or so. Yeah.
Usually I think about 90% of them are cleared up by about the 15-day mark. So
Yeah.
it's they suck, but they're gone.
One
so
of our
you just suffer
viewers
through it.
here just mentioned that he gets a cold every month.
Every month.
Yeah.
Wow. I feel
don't believe
sorry
it.
for that
Yeah,
guy.
it's my brother, so I know that for sure.
Oh,
so.
yeah? He's a sick
He's
guy.
always sick.
Oh, that's too much.
Yeah.
But another interesting thing about colds is, they've always been with us. As long as there have been humans, there's been cold viruses.
Yeah.
They've been described by pretty much every civilization that's existed. We have documented cold things that ancient Egyptians would do to try and help them. And
Stuff honey up your
yeah,
nose or something.
pretty much weird things like that. And yeah, so it's described by ancient Greeks, ancient Egyptians, everybody has colds. So it's kind of a funny thing. I don't know if you caught that, but he just coughed. He's got his little cold. But yeah, as long as there have been humans, there's been colds. It's something to tie us back to our ancestors.
Yeah,
which
there's a
is
lot
not
of
the best
history
way.
about the phlegm as well, and the
Oh,
snot, and people do all kinds of things with it as well. It's pretty interesting, yeah.
Yeah, well, phlegm, has been, it's one of the big things in old science. It was one of the 4 humors, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you say you're phlegmatic, you got too much phlegm in you.
Yeah, they gotta beat it out.
Yeah, you're a phlegmy old man. That's what I always say about you. So what else is about a cold? They're annoying, but you tend to not have to go see anybody with a cold. It's not.
Yeah, they usually resolve. Your body kind of fights the virus by itself.
Yeah, that being said, though, that doesn't stop people from going to physicians, going to hospitals, all that kind of thing with a cold. generally unnecessary.
They overwhelm the system a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, not too long ago, they put a call out saying, please, if you have a cold and you think it's okay, don't go to the clinic because we are filled with people. And there's, triage gets very complex. You have 20 people waiting for a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's signs all over ERs, they're like, if you have these symptoms, stay home because it's just a cold.
Yeah.
There's approximately 75 to 100 million physician visits every year because of common colds, and that adds up to about $7.7 billion just for common colds.
Maybe that's why our medical system is falling apart.
Yeah, could be. There's about $2.9 billion spent on medications each year, on cold medication each year, and approximately 400 million of that is in prescription medicine.
Prescription, okay.
Yeah, isn't that wild? There's approximately 22 to I have that backwards, 18 to 22 million school days missed per year.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And 126 million work days. That constitutes about 40% of time lost in the United States for work because of common colds.
That's crazy. I have to ask you, did you ever pretend that you had a cold or you exaggerated your cold when you were younger to skip school?
I think just about everybody has done that.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember one time when I was sitting at home, I was like, I'm just so sick. I need McDonald's. That'll help me. Yeah, so I got some chicken nuggets, and I felt better.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have anything else about just general info about what a cold is?
No, I mean, you pretty much covered the basics here, and so there's the pretty obvious symptoms and all that stuff. You want to delve into the biology and how the colds actually affect us and how they enter our bodies?
Yeah, we can do that. I'm not sure if even before we do that, I mentioned a bit earlier. I don't know if you were paying attention. I don't know. Maybe I'm here. Maybe I'm doing this alone right now. But I mentioned how a flu is pretty much just a bad cold.
Right. It's a stronger version.
It's a strong. So I don't know. I think that would be worth just getting into that a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Just because flu is something that a lot of people deal with.
Yeah.
And it is different from a cold, but not in a kind of weird way, because like I said, a cold is just a word we use for a respiratory illness, right? So a flu is technically a cold, but in a much more severe state. So it's caused by, again, a host of viruses. But one of the things that makes a flu is that it's a lot more severe and it's a lot quicker.
Yeah,
so
more pain as well.
Yeah, more. Well, yes, of course. Yeah. And there's also kind of like vomiting and diarrhea, that kind of thing. No, that's really bad. So you get all dizzy and it's awful. Whereas a cold, wlasts about 10, 15 days. A flu lasts about 2 to 5 days. So, it's a lot faster. It's a lot worse. So
there's a trade-off here, but
and even with that 2 to 5 days, I know I've had flu a couple times. You feel awful, like for weeks. Yeah, it takes it all out of you.
Yeah, see, it's funny, in the English language, there's a word for a cold and a word for flu. But when I was learning English and I had a cold, I used to say I had the flu, and I didn't know because in some languages, just you had the flu. The flu means you're sick or whatever.
Exactly.
And everybody was like, "Oh my god, that's so bad." I'm like, "No, it's a weak flu. It's a weak flu. It was a cold."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think something to think about with flu though is that it often causes a lot of other complications along with it being awful. It can cause pneumonia, which is liquid in the lungs, right? I believe that's what pneumonia is. Bronchitis, that's swelling of the throat, if I'm not mistaken.
Or your bronchioles.
The lower part, right before it splits off to the intestine, lungs. I know how breathing works. I'm a scientist.
We've never done anatomy.
It can cause sinusitis, which is I don't even know, some kind of illness with your sinuses. I'd assume liquid in it, but I don't know. Yeah. I actually read a gross fact the other day about just colds in general, where you have to blow your nose when you have a cold, right? But sometimes you're so clogged up, right? And it kind of like, I don't know if you've had this, I know I have, but it, like when you try to blow your nose, there's like all this pressure inside your head.
Oh, yeah.
So apparently there's a thing with colds where if you build up that pressure enough from blowing your nose, like you blow your nose too hard pretty much, then you can actually propel fluid into your sinuses.
That's really, actually I've heard about that, and that's very interesting. I wanted to touch on that today as well. Because whenever I fly, when I have a cold, it affects your sinuses.
Yeah, exactly.
I got the worst pain in my sinuses
There you
around
go.
my eyes.
Yeah.
So I think when we're flying this weekend, I'm going to be crying on the plane.
Oh man. All right.
Yeah, I
I'll
got the
bring my
worst
tissues.
pains, the worst pressure pains when I fly when I have a
Oh,
cold.
that's
yeah.
bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember one time I had terrible sinus pain from flying. I felt like my eyes were gonna pop out.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
it's
It just
one of those
feels like
things.
the bones around your eyes are being sawed by a friggin'...
Yeah, exactly. Also with flus and with colds, there's a tendency to get ear infections.
Yeah.
A lot of people get ear infections. I think it's just because of lowered immunity. And,
Lowered immunity, and also a lot of the pressure moves a lot of
Pressure,
tissue
yeah.
around your ears, and there's a lot of pressure stuff that happens in your head. A lot of the headache that happens as well is
Yeah.
because of the
I guess
sinus pressure.
cold headaches are a pretty big thing too.
Yeah.
One way to tell, pretty much, if you have a good way to tell is if you have a cold or a fever, a cold or a flu. I gave it away. Darn it. Okay, yeah. Flus come with fevers. Colds generally don't come with fevers. Sometimes they do, but a cold fever will rarely go above 101 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 38.3 degrees Celsius. Thank you, Google. Cold fevers rarely go above that. So if you have a fever, you might have a flu, but I'd recommend taking your temperature, see what you're at.
Yeah.
Now that we've been through a bit about the flu, just because that's another topical thing,
Right.
we can get a bit more into the biology of the actual cold virus.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to start us off?
Go ahead. I have a few things about how the body reacts to it and how it affects the body.
Okay, cool. Sure. I'll just talk about the actual virus then. Why not?
Okay, sure.
Cold viruses are generally tiny.
Very
Usually viruses, they're small. Obviously, they're smaller than bacteria. An average virus is about 300 nanometers, which is the step below micrometers, and then millimeters, micrometers, nanometers, right?
So it's a billionth of a meter.
Yeah, something like that. So they're tiny.
Really small.
Really small. Yeah, that's the point. So an average virus is about 300. Cold virus is only about 30. So they're really tiny. There's about 99 types of the rhinovirus, which is the main one. And when I say types, it's kind of viruses are kind of different than anything else. If you've done sciences, you that's kind of a theme you hear with viruses a lot. One of the main things though is that there's not like within a species of virus, there's a whole different kinds, and they're called serotypes.
Yeah.
So a serotype is basically just it has different proteins on it. Because when they bind to your cells, well, the way they infect is pretty much they have to bind to your cells, right?
Right. That's
So
how they produce.
yeah, exactly. I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit later. But a serotype basically is that a single species of a virus can have all these different proteins surrounding it that allow it to bind to your cells. So within a single species, there can be a whole different kind of protein shown on each one, and that's a different serotype. It's not actually different species, it's just different proteins that are shown on the same species that allow it to bind, and then it confuses your immune system.
Yeah, and
basically.
viruses are tricky like that. They're always mutating, and there's always new strains out there.
They're
It's
incredibly
crazy.
hard to deal with.
Yeah.
The rhinovirus and cold viruses, they proliferate and they thrive best in around 33 to 35 degrees Celsius, and that's perfect. That's the temperature of your nose, approximately.
Yeah, and
So
your
that's-
upper throat.
and your upper throat, yeah,
Upper respiratory system,
So that's where they do best, in about that temperature.
And like
So
moist conditions as well.
yeah, they like so the nose and throat. That's perfect for them, and then that's where they live. That's where they reproduce, and they have a time with your body, and then they leave. They're transmitted through a number of mechanisms. The way that everybody hears about it, they're all on the doorknobs and stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the main ways that cold viruses are transferred is, of course, everybody knows in bodily fluids that you've kind of put on your hands and then rub onto other things, or human-to-human contact.
Right.
And they're also transferred via droplets, basically just phlegm liquids
cough,
from your body,
sneezing.
cough, sneeze, anything that you kind of emit from your body, they can actually live in those tiny little what are called droplets, aerosolized droplets. That basically just means they're in the air, droplets in the air, and then you breathe them in, or you catch them, you rub them on your eyes. That's a popular way of them
Yeah,
getting
you're
in.
rubbing your
Eyes,
eyes and
mouth,
noses, yeah.
nose. That's how they get in.
Sharing straws is a bad one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Any kind of sharing around this time of year
Yeah.
is dangerous.
Yeah, stay away from everybody.
So yeah, you want to get into how what it actually does?
Yeah, so when you rub the virus on your eyes, your nose, or whatever, and it enters where the temperature and the conditions that it likes, it starts to enter the epithelial cells. And epithelial cells are the cells that kind of line your nose and line your upper throat. And the way viruses work is they make your cells make more viruses, essentially, and that's how they reproduce.
Mm-hmm.
So they enter the cell and they change. I'm not going to get too technical, but they change the way the cell functions, and the cell starts to make more of these viruses. So the first couple of days the virus is in your body, you actually don't notice that it's there. The moment you start noticing symptoms, the virus has already been there for at least 2 or 3 days.
Do cold viruses, do they use your cells to make their own proteins? Because I know a lot of viruses, will actually hijack your cell's ability to make proteins and shift it from your proteins to the viral.
Yeah,
protein.
I think that's the way they work as well. I think all viruses do that. No,
yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not.
Yeah, I think that's the way viruses reproduce. They just hijack your cells.
Yeah, it's
and
very
make more
interesting
of me,
system.
Yeah, very complex, very interesting, and that's why there's a debate as to whether viruses are actually alive or dead, or are they
because they
living
can't
things.
reproduce themselves.
They
That's
can't
one of the
reproduce
main
themselves.
things,
Yeah. Exactly. So, anyways, when the viruses hijack your cells and your cells are making more of these viruses, your body's like, wait a minute, there's foreign objects in me. I don't know what to do. And one of the mechanisms that your body fights these foreign objects is to kind of encapsulate them, and then sends white blood cells that fight these foreign objects, or if it's debris or whatever, it kind of ejects it or just forms a capsule around it and leaves it there.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the symptoms, or almost all the symptoms that we get from the cold, are because of the way our body is fighting these viruses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's largely the actual immune response we have, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That immune response is what causes our symptoms. It's kind of a weird thing to say because you have your viral infection and you have your symptoms, and it always seems like those two things, that the virus causes the symptoms.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that the virus causes them; it's your own body causing the symptoms. But you can't even really say that because it's the virus that's causing the immune response, and it wants the immune response.
And exactly, I was just going to say the virus wants the body to have that response so it can reproduce, spread some
which
more.
is an interesting thing. So it's like you can kind of just cut that out and say that it is the virus that's causing it, but you can't because it's just it's a weird terminology thing.
Yeah, welcome to nature. And
yeah,
science.
exactly.
It's
crazy, especially anything like a virus or a parasite. It just screws up your whole way of thinking about an organism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the early symptoms of getting a cold and explain why they happen.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So usually you have in your upper respiratory system, you have glands that produce mucus, and these very runny, clear mucus on a regular basis, and these keep your throat hydrated and lubricated for breathing and swallowing and stuff. When you get a virus, your body starts getting inflamed in those areas, and the mucus gets a bit thicker. And because the mucus is a bit thicker, it doesn't coat the throat as well, and that's why you get an itchy, sore throat, because it's not as well lubricated and it gets drier. So the first signs of an itchy throat is because your mucous membranes are producing thicker mucus.
Oh, interesting. You said what's getting inflamed there, you said?
The body itself starts building these globules almost around the areas that have these foreign objects or the viruses. So it's just cells and tissue that's getting inflamed.
Interesting.
And a lot of it is the mucous tissue as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes you notice your tonsils they swell and start to hurt, and that's because they produce a lot of white blood cells. The immune response begins there, and they also get inflamed, and the body's like, oh my god, I need to
what's happening?
Yeah. And then after that, you start having a runny nose, and you start feeling sick, or you have high temperature, low temperature with the flu, for example. And the temperature change is also kind of is an interesting one because it's a way the body kills foreign objects by changing the temperature.
Yeah, exactly. Fever is actually something that's it's actually very important for your body to do, and it's one of those things that seems to be one of people's biggest fears of getting a fever. It is terrible to have one, but it's actually an extremely important part of illness. It's your body's way of killing anything that it doesn't want inside, which tends to kill things that you do want in there as well, because it's awful, it's hot,
Right.
and not many things can survive when you increase the extremely static
Yeah.
environment of our internal systems. But it's actually a highly important thing.
Yeah. So yeah, well, with the sore throat and all that, you start getting a runny nose, and that's a way for the body to kind of eject all this foreign material out. And it's also a way for the virus to also spread into other people.
Exactly.
And infect other
That
things.
runny nose is laden full of viruses.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's the way it is.
Yeah. So when you get a cold, it's your body is fighting this virus, and all the symptoms are because your body is causing itself to do that, to fight the virus.
Yeah, and then it eventually wins. And
Eventually
goes
will
away.
win, almost all the time. Yeah. If not, you should go to the hospital.
Yes, exactly. If you
And
have
you'll
a
know,
persistent cold.
yeah.
Kind of something interesting that I saw, and you pretty much mentioned, but the immune response with a cold is that one of the things that happens is that your blood vessels actually open up, and it allowing white blood cells,
Right.
All the different kinds. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of white blood cells
Right.
to come in and do their thing, eat up the bad guys, and also this increase in blood vessel,
transport,
blood transport, blood vessel. It increases mucus secretions as well,
Right.
which again, leads to the buildup of mucus in your throat and your nose.
Yeah, a lot of water gets sucked out of the blood, I guess.
Yeah.
That's one way to put it, and that's why you have more mucus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty gross. Something to think about is that there's kind of like, everybody knows there's different stages of a cold. You start with a sore throat, and then it kind of gets coughy, and then kind of gets sneezy, kind of phlegmy, and then it kind of you sometimes end with another cough. It sometimes goes away. When the virus actually comes in and binds to your cells, that's when you kind of have a lot of viral irritation in your actual cells, when it's binding, when it's starting to reproduce, when it's starting to kill your cells.
Yeah.
And when that happens, a lot of the internal cell tissue, when they get damaged, will flood into your body,
Right.
and that a lot of that causes the sneezing, a lot of things that you just want to get out. Your body's trying to get it out,
That's
so you
right.
sneeze, you cough, it gets out. But when the virus moves down into your lungs a little bit after that, then that fluid and that mucus starts to accumulate in your lungs, and that's when you get a really gross,
The bad
phlegmy cough
yeah.
that everybody hates when you're in class. With
Yeah.
that, there's that one person. There's always that one person that's coughing, sniffling, coughing. Yeah.
Especially during the finals. Or,
Yeah, exactly. There's
Yeah,
always
that
somebody
one,
in the
I
gym.
was that person
Yeah.
once, and it was so bad.
I've
You
been that
just
person
can't
a couple
hold
times.
it back. You just have to cough.
That's one of the things with colds. Everybody has them. It sucks, and you have to. I mean, you obviously don't like hearing it in other people, but you also have to accept it, and you have to not be embarrassed to have a cold.
Yeah,
That's one of the big things. You have it, it
And
goes
it's just
away,
part of what happens.
and
yeah,
everybody
exactly.
gets them.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So why do you think people get colds around this time of the year, Simon? I mean, a lot of times you hear when you go out and play in the mud or play in the water puddles.
The water.
And if you go out without a jacket, you're gonna catch a cold. Tell us
you'll
more
catch a
about
deathly
that.
cold.
Yeah.
Well, traditional folk medicine has always said, cold is going to give you a cold. One of the interesting things about a cold is that there's actually no correlation with weather.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's correlation, but there's no
Causation.
No causation.
Yeah.
So, weather actually has very little to do with how cold a virus is able to exist. It's more an effect of our behavior, right? So when it starts to get colder, people start to spend a lot more time indoors, and that leads to us spending a lot more time in close quarters and close to each other,
exactly.
and that kind of thing that just breeds viruses. It's when they thrive is when we're close together. When you're outdoors in summer, it's a lot easier to get that virus out just into the air, and then it kind of just dies. I think they only have like a 24-hour at most time out of the body. So that, and then they just kind of disintegrate. But when they're indoors, it's a lot easier for them to be picked up by people. As far as weather, I really don't. I never found any information about it actually.
Yeah, me either. Me either. But it's interesting because if you notice in summer, people are generally happier than they are in winter.
It's true.
And there is a correlation and a causation effect where when you get more psychologically and physically stressed, you have a higher chance of catching a cold.
Really?
When your body is actually stressed,
Makes sense, yeah.
your immunity system is weaker.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of opens all kinds of chances for the cold to take over and become a full-blown, for the virus to take over and become a full-blown cold.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why around exam times, a lot of students get colds, or in the beginning of the year where people are kind of stressed about school and living in residence, for example. Everybody's living close to each other, so there's a very easy chance to transmit the cold as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You're stressed, your immune system's lower, bad things are going to happen. I did read one thing about how cold weather tends to dry our nose and throat.
Okay.
And there's been some evidence that the drying of a drier area actually helps the virus. I'm not sure how.
Well, the epithelial cells, one of the reasons they produce mucus is so they can trap the viruses, and then you swallow the mucus, and your stomach acids would just digest them. So if you have a thinner layer of mucus or no mucus, the virus will be able to actually penetrate the cells a bit better.
Yeah, very interesting.
The mucus is kind of a defense mechanism first, and then
which is why we're flooded with mucus when we get a cold.
Because
exactly. we're trying to trap it before it's able to infect more of our epithelial cells.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is it's what a cold is. It's what everybody knows. It sucks, but it's helping you. That's the whole point.
Yeah. So what kind of medicines do you want to take when you have a cold, and what kind do you not want to take? What do you want to do? What do you not want to do?
Personally, I don't know about you. I never take anything.
Yeah.
I try to not take any medicine for really anything unless I have to. And especially with a cold, I just suffer through it. It's like I said, like we've said a couple times, it's your body doing what it has to do to get rid of this virus.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to go about it. My mom always used to say, just let the sickness have its day.
Yeah.
And I still hold to that. I try to let it do its thing and then get out of me.
It's true. And almost all the medicines you'll get for the cold are only they kind of suppress your symptoms. They're not doing anything at all to fight the virus.
Yeah, exactly.
And if anybody tells you should take antibiotics when you have a cold, tell them that they're wrong.
Oh, tell them to go away. I do not want to be your friend anymore.
And the reason is because antibiotics do not work on viruses.
No.
Because antibiotic is something that kills a living thing or kills bacteria, and viruses are not bacteria, so it will do absolutely nothing to you. Exactly, and they can be more harmful to you if you take them.
Exactly. Yes. Never take an antibacteria for a cold unless you have some other complication like a bacterial infection, like an ear infection.
Exactly. Or you usually have to get a prescription anyways.
Well, yes, exactly. But I mean, a lot of doctors nowadays will just prescribe antibiotics just because they have nothing else to do.
They get paid by the
exactly. Especially in the States, there's a lot of unnecessary antibiotic prescription, which is a terrible thing because it helps. It actually, in the long run, helps the bad bacteria in your body because any ones that survive that antibacteria are actually stronger theoretically than the ones that were killed. So then they're able to reproduce, and there you go. You get resistance to antibiotics, and that's a huge problem. That's a whole other
issue. It's a whole other topic here, but it's a huge issue right now in the world. Yeah.
So but even so, there's all kinds of over-the-counter and prescription medications for colds. Common ones, you can get a decongestant. Decongestants are for nasal and for sinus stuffiness. Right. Basically, the main thing, having a stuffed nose.
Yeah, I use those because I hate not being able to smell food. So I just put my nose full of those decongestants.
Yes, exactly. A thing about decongestants, though, with any medication, there's always a side effect. Right. Decongestants, they open up your blood vessels. They increase your heart rate.
Right.
And in a lot of people, they can actually cause anxiety.
Yeah, or insomnia, I guess.
Insomnia as well. Antihistamines are another big group of a cold medication that you can get over the counter, and that's for the runny nose and for sneezing. So you have decongestants for stuffiness, antihistamines for runniness. antihistamines, they can cause drowsiness and they can cause dry mouth.
Right.
It's not the biggest deal, but it's something like a NyQuil.
So if you take
will have an
antihistamines
antihistamine.
and decongestants at once, you'll get rid of those side
You
effects.
explode.
No, you won't have the side effects, but your symptoms will be gone.
Yeah, well,
We should try that.
don't quote us on that. Don't try this at home. I don't know, maybe. I don't know how good they are together. I don't know. I feel like it's never a good idea to mix medications without a set schedule, worked out with a doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nasal sprays. You mentioned that a lot of them are decongestant nasal sprays. So something kind of cool I found about nasal sprays. I never knew this, but apparently with like clinical nasal sprays, a saline nasal spray, like just a salt-based one,
Right.
it's fine for your body. Not to say that a clinical nasal spray isn't, but something interesting is that when you use your nasal spray, it obviously works really well. But then after about 3 days, a lot of people actually get a nasal spray rebound where you've been so clear that it actually just floods, and then it's clogged worse than the first day.
Oh, I know. I notice that a lot because if you overuse your nasal spray, that's
Exactly.
most likely to happen, and I noticed that with me as well.
Yeah, so they say you just use a salt spray one, just salt water, and that clears it up. It's a lot slower, but you don't get the rebound.
I was having a conversation with one of my roommates, and he said some nasal sprays they have steroids in them, and that's how they work. They kind of stimulate your cells around your nose, and they just clear themselves, and you can get addicted to them. So
Whoa.
yeah.
Oh, all right. You can get addicted to anything these days. So don't take it before a race.
Yeah.
It was something that you hear about all the time now these days. There's actually no evidence for cough syrups and cough medicines. There's no evidence that they've ever worked. Yeah.
I think they taste good. The cough pills are good.
Well, that's a different thing. A lozenge or something like that. That shows evidence for working in the extremely short term. Basically, while you're sucking on a lozenge, it works. It's
maybe if you suck on a piece of rock, it will
exactly.
work.
It's just getting your fluids going.
Yeah.
Same with drinking for a sore throat, drinking water.
Exactly.
It works while you're doing it, maybe a couple minutes after, and then you're back to where you were before. But it's good for while it's doing it. So lozenges are good.
Yeah.
Clear up your sore throat for a while you're sucking on them, and they taste good.
One time I bought it, I forgot what kind it was, and it was almost like eating an anesthetic. I put it in my mouth, and I could not feel my tongue for like 30 minutes after. It was for a sore throat. So it just kind of numbed your entire mouth and your throat. It worked, but it was very weird. It was just my whole mouth was numb.
It's kind of funny, like, one of the only things that actually works for, suppressing coughs and stuff like that is heroin.
Yeah.
So, and they used to market that in the old days
was
as
a miracle.
exactly, heroin, cocaine, that'll clear you up, but we don't recommend it.
Yeah.
Not recommended by Fudge the Data.
No.
Don't do heroin for a cold. So what else? Basically, a couple things we've said. One of the main things to think about when taking cold medication is decongestants keep you awake. Antihistamines put you to sleep.
Yeah.
Something like Dayquil, decongestant, something like NyQuil, antihistamine, but they also have things that have been added to them to change that up a bit.
Yeah.
But that's the way it basically works.
Yeah.
There's actually no evidence that vitamin C helps. A lot of people, a lot of people say, eat all your oranges. Eat as many oranges as you can. Here's a vitamin C pill.
Tablets,
Vitamin C tablets.
Stuff,
I still take those. I think they're pretty great.
Yeah.
But there's no evidence for them.
Orange juice.
There's no evidence for them actually preventing a cold.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there's some evidence for them shortening the time.
Okay. I
So, yeah.
know that, yeah.
I'd still recommend it. I mean, vitamin C is obviously great for you in the right dosage. You can overdose on anything.
Yeah.
One of the big things in cold medication, I don't know if you had heard about this from a couple years ago, is that zinc is supposed to be the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
They say zinc is the thing, but just like any seemingly cold medication, it's pretty much been
It's not.
it's pretty much been found to not really do anything.
Yeah.
And in fact, there was a nasal spray based around zinc and some acid compound that was put together, and people would use it, and they would lose their sense of smell
No, my God.
permanently.
Permanently.
So yeah,
Ew.
that was kind of shut down.
Nice trick to play on your friend. You smell this?
Exactly. It was funny. The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration agency in in the States, they said something around the lines of like, it's all right, but it may cause you to lose your smell. But it was still marketed. It was still marketed and put in stores.
Oh, wow.
So thank you, Food and Drug Administration agency.
Yeah.
Like we've said before, don't take antibiotics. Please don't take antibiotics unnecessarily for anything.
Thank you. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you, yes. Please and thank you. Like we talked a bit about before, try not to suppress your fever unless it's really bad, because fevers are actually good for you.
Yeah.
As awful as they are, they're good for you.
Yeah. And I mean, monitor them. If they're getting a bit overhand, you should go to the hospital and
Of
get
course,
monitored by professionals. But yeah.
Yeah. If you are going to try to suppress a fever, one of the best ways to do it is with something like Tylenol or some or ibuprofen, like Advil or a Motrin.
Yeah.
Those are the things you want to look for. Not aspirin. Aspirin will actually make it worse in a lot of cases and can lead to serious other side effects. So if you have a fever, don't take aspirin. Take ibuprofen.
Yeah. Jump in the snow works.
Jump in the snow. I don't know if that. We're gonna say jump in the snow. We're going with jump in the snow.
Let us know it works on Twitter or Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fudge the data on Facebook. Jump in the snow. Best way to prevent a cold? Do you know?
Prevent a cold. There's a few ways. I mean, try not to get in too much contact with people who have colds, because that's the way it transfers.
Yep.
Stay hydrated, keep your exercise, stay healthy, keep your mental and physical health up to par. That's very important. It's a lot of psychological stuff as well. If you're psychologically strong, I believe at least that you'll be less susceptible to getting colds or sick.
I completely agree.
Yeah, so mental health is important. Stay healthy mentally and physically as well.
Yep. Good diet, good exercise program.
Yeah,
it all helps your immune system.
Absolutely, and when you have a cold as well, stay hydrated, eat nutritious foods. Staying hydrated is very, very important because the cold dehydrates you as well, and you need that water and hydration to keep good bodily functions.
Yeah.
Eat soups. Soups are good because the chicken noodle soup is the classic cold food or whatever soup, and that's because when you cook a soup, all the nutrients stay within the broth.
Yeah.
You don't lose any nutrients due to cooking, so your body's absorbing all the nutrients and all the good stuff. So
plus they're delicious.
Plus they're delicious, and plus they're easy to digest. When you have a cold, the last thing you want to do is give your body a steak or something that's hard to digest that will overwork the body. So eat foods that are easy to digest and nutritious as well.
Yeah. Something interesting you mentioned there is that keeping a positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of colds and cold medication. A lot of it, is little more than a placebo effect.
Exactly,
basically, if you think you're doing well, you're going to be doing well.
You're going to be doing well.
That's just how your body works. Yeah. It's one of those things in science that we don't really know why or how it works, but if you keep a positive mental attitude, you're going to be in a good shape.
Yeah, so around this time, if you're stressed, go for a run, go out with friends, just have some fun.
Yeah, be happy.
Exactly.
Don't worry about getting a cold or a flu.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Once your roommate gets the cold, you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna get it. Everybody's gonna get it, and that's how you get it. If you don't worry about it, you won't get it.
Yeah, there was a couple of years ago. There was, I don't know how many people were here. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. There was a horrible stomach flu going around campus.
I did not get it.
Yeah, that's one of the big. Everybody had this horrible stomach flu. Throwing up. Vomiting, diarrhea everywhere. Yeah. Everywhere, all the streets were littered. People were swimming in it, rowing boats down. But I was like, I said to myself, I'm not going to get this.
That's what I said.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I said no, I never get this. I will not get it this time.
And I didn't get it. Yeah.
Everybody on my floor got it. And almost everybody on my building.
Same. I remember it was right before Christmas break.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in meal hall with one of my friends, the only 2 people who hadn't got it.
Yeah.
And we were like, we're not going to get this.
We're
not getting this on Christmas break.
Yeah.
And we went our separate ways, and she got it, and I didn't.
She lost the will.
Yeah, exactly. So, how about anything else with
No. It's. I think we covered some good stuff about the cold. Hopefully, you learned some stuff, and hopefully, you know how to avoid a cold or how to get through a cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna shift gears completely now
into a gaming session.
Yeah, we're gonna game a bit. We're gonna play everybody's favorite game, Name that scientist.
Name that scientist.
Oh, we're gonna name him.
I have a good one for you today,
Do you?
actually. So he's one of my favorite scientists.
Oh, excellent. Mine's not one of my favorites, but well, you know, he was, and then he wasn't, and then he's up there again.
Okay, so you know what? You can start this time. I started last time. So.
In which way? Because we're doing a bit differently this time. We were going to do kind of a question and answer session rather than clues. So do you want me to question you, or do you want to question me?
You know what? Okay, you can give me clues, and I can ask you questions. Does that work?
Oh yeah, sure. Let's do it that way.
Okay, clue question.
You know, however, you know what? Let's just do this.
We'll just go with it. All right.
All right. So my guy is an Englishman. I'll start with that. He's an Englishman.
Okay.
From the 17th century.
Okay.
So he's an old guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Biologist.
A bit of everything. He was a polymath.
Okay.
Polymath basically means just he was good at everything.
Classics 18th, 17th.
Yeah, exactly. they were all good at everything. Yeah. It's kind of unfair.
Okay. So he's a guy.
Yep.
17th century, so 1800s. Anything he's famous for?
Oh, so much.
Okay.
Well, not. I mean, he was famous in his time. Then he lost a bit, and then it was kind of rekindled. More recently.
More recently, okay.
Not within.
But yeah.
You know, hundreds of years.
Okay. Okay, give me more hints.
You want another clue? He studied at Westminster School, and let's see.
Charles Darwin.
No. He was not 17th century. What was he? 19th century? I think he was 19.
19th.
Yeah, wasn't he? 1800s? Or was he early 1900s? I don't know my history. I'm way off here. You know what? We're going to cut that. Editors, come in now. One thing about this guy is that he was known for his large-scale jealousy regarding other scientists.
Oh, okay.
So he's a very jealous man, but a very brilliant man in his own right.
You know, for some reason, Beethoven is the only thing that comes to my mind. I know it's not.
He's not a scientist.
I know, far from it. But okay, jealous. Did he? Okay. All right, give me more.
Yeah, let's just keep going. I have a couple of quotes about him. I didn't bring a quote he said. So I'll say one of the quotes about him, and then I'll save one for the end.
Okay.
So one of the quotes about him is a great quote, which says, "In person, he was but despicable, melancholy, mistrustful, and jealous." And that was written about him in a biography from the 1800s.
I already hated that person.
Yeah.
Okay. Who can I think of that was just a miserable... A miserable side.
If you've seen Cosmos, he was featured pretty prominently in one of the early episodes.
Oh, wow.
The new one with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'll just give you another clue here.
Okay, I think, the name, the description sounds familiar.
We're going to get into the more obvious clues now. He worked on gravitation, planets, and light, a lot of.
Oh my god, okay, nice.
So one of the early astronomers was a big thing.
Galileo.
Not Galileo. Post Galileo.
Yeah, Galileo's a bit older than that.
Okay, let's get into all portraits of him were destroyed because of a jealous debate he had with a fellow scientist. And if I name the other scientist, you want me to name the other scientist he was in he did debate with?
Did he work with Darwin?
He didn't work with Darwin.
With Darwin, never mind, different era.
Yeah.
No, don't tell me. Did he do any evolutionary biology at all?
He was a large proponent of early evolutionary biologists, but he wasn't an evolutionary biologist.
Okay.
He believed in it. I'm just going to keep going.
Okay.
The other scientist he was in a big row with was Newton.
Oh my god, okay, I should know this.
Yeah, it's gonna get
Actually,
easier.
Newton was the second person I was going to guess.
Yeah?
But,
no, so Newton's opposite.
Yeah.
From Cosmos. He wrote a very famous book called Micrographia, in which he drew everything he saw under microscope, to which he invented.
Oh my god, he invented the microscope too. I should know this.
All right, so he drew everything. He invented the microscope, or an early version of the microscope. He coined the term cell based on what he saw in corkwood under a microscope.
Oh my god. Okay. Actually, before we move on, micrographia was one of my questions on my trivia.
Oh wow.
So you have the answer to that.
All right.
Okay, I know this. I should know this.
But yeah, that's all you get. Those are all my clues.
Okay, one of our listeners says he knows the answer.
All right.
If you know the answer, send it to me now, please.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say it.
Okay, say it.
Because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
It's Robert Hooke.
Oh my God, Robert Hooke.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. So the other great quote I have about him.
Oh my God, yes.
Is that he was positively unscrupulous and possessed an uneasy and apprehensive vanity.
Oh my
Isn't
God,
that
of course.
wonderful?
Oh my, how can I miss that? Robert Hooke. Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
But he actually wasn't a bad guy. It was just because he was in this big fight with Newton, and then once he died and Newton took over, Newton kind of destroyed history for him and made him into this awful, like, kind of Richard III type character. Who, ended up not being true at all. We've kind of realized recently. Yeah. And he actually is one of the most famous and important early scientists.
Yeah. Okay, all right. You got me on that one. I'm also really bad with names.
No, yeah, I am as well.
Okay, so my scientist is a fairly famous scientist.
All right.
He did a lot of physics work and chemistry work.
Okay, physicist and chemist, all right.
Englishman as well.
Okay. What time period, do you know?
1700s.
1700s. Okay.
Late 1700s. Early 1700s.
Okay.
Around that time.
So about the same as Robert Hooke then?
Around that time. He was an assistant to Humphrey Davy.
I don't know who that is. That doesn't help me.
Okay, so... and he was also kind of a poly scientist. He delved into a bunch of things.
Yeah, as they all did.
Yeah, so he worked a lot on chlorine and chlorine molecules. He worked on steel alloys.
Okay.
He discovered benzene.
What would be Galvin?
No.
No?
Okay. Okay, no. Okay, I thought you'd guess that, but then I'll tell you more of the obvious things that he worked with. He was kind of one of the first people to kind of invent or start working on the electric engine. He did a lot of work in electromagnetism and electrochemistry, electrolysis, like
voltaic cells.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the really cool things he did, I think, in my opinion, is he refused to help the British Army in making chemical weapons, even though he was did a lot of research in chlorine.
Oh, wow.
When the British Army was fighting in Crimea, I guess,
and they wanted mustard gas already. Yeah. Wow, they really
so they went to him because he was the expert, and he cited humanitarian reasons, and he didn't help.
Good man.
He was given a lot of opportunities to be knighted, and he refused. Very, very humble man.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That's rare in science, especially in that time period.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of his famous work is because of the electrical and magnetic field stuff. Any guesses?
No, not really. I'm not much of a physicist. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I'll give you this hint. We use one of the tools in our lab that was named after him.
Mr. Gas Chromatogram.
No, it's a very simple tool.
Very simple tool.
We don't use it always, but when we use it, it helps to reduce noise on the electron.
Oh, Faraday.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael Faraday.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, so the Faraday's cage.
Not to be confused with Daniel Faraday of Lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yes. Excellent. Faraday.
Yeah, so he did a lot of work, and...
he was a great guy.
Yeah,
I didn't know he was so humble. That's very
cool.
Yeah.
Apparently he was very humble, yeah.
Oh, all right. So those are our scientists. We got Robert Hooke and, what was it? Michael Faraday.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get into our last segment, bit of science trivia to lash back at each other with. To whip each other.
Questions. We'll see how many we can go through.
Probably won't get through all of them either way, but we'll go back and forth.
Okay, so...
do you want to start, or you just had that? I'll start then, because you just had your guy.
Go ahead.
So my first question is from last week. We didn't get to it, actually. So it's one of the weirder ones. Yeah, that's not philosophical.
All right,
what happens if you put an ant in a microwave?
Okay, well, I'm going to say explode, but...
Is your answer is explode?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you, that's wrong.
Oh, wow, okay.
Interestingly enough, nothing will happen to it.
Really? We'll just keep going.
It lives on. And the reason because of that is actually incredible. I love this. Microwaves produce waves, microwaves,
Right,
right? And the way a microwave works is that those waves come off one side, bounce off the other side, and bounce off all the sides, and that's what heats your food. The way they bounce actually ends up being what's called a static wave. So it ends up just kind of repeating the same sequence that it's been around. And that's why you have to turn your food to hit all those spots.
Okay.
So because it's a static wave, there's areas of the microwave that are actually cooler than the hot areas where the wave is.
Yeah.
So an ant is actually small enough to fit in those areas that are cooler than the hot area where the wave is.
Really?
Yeah. So
if you put a drop of food the size of an ant in the microwave, it's impossible to heat it?
well, no. See, the reason an ant, I mean, it might be impossible, but the reason an ant will be fine is that it can just move.
Oh, right. So
it just moves to where,
it
just moves to the cold part.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay,
It'll just sit there.
That is very interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful?
Okay. Okay, I should have asked that question earlier, but why is it impossible for insects to get a cold?
To get a cold?
Yeah. Because birds get colds, other mammals get colds, or fish don't get colds. But why insects in specific?
Huh.
Think about their anatomy and where the cold affects us.
In our throat, in our nose. They don't have a nose, really. They have antennae.
Exactly. They don't have a respiratory system.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well, yeah, there you go. Yeah. They have little holes on
well,
the
they
side.
do, but it's not like ours. Yeah.
So a virus can't. I mean, I assume it would be a different kind of virus.
Yeah, they do get viruses, but not cold viruses. Anyways, that's not my question.
Okay.
My question is, where was Einstein born?
Einstein, Germany.
Germany. Okay, cool.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, he was born in Ulm, Germany. I have family who live in that town. So
really?
That's why I got excited earlier.
Oh, you know him?
We were
you met him?
Best friends.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't know you were that old.
Yeah.
Okay, that was your question?
Yes.
All right, my second question. How much chocolate will kill you?
I'm gonna say about 1.5 kilograms.
Can you convert that to pounds?
3.5 pounds.
We're looking more.
Okay, let's go 6.
We're looking more.
More than 6
pounds?
pounds?
Oh yeah, keep going.
So you're gonna
chocolate.
Oh god, okay.
It's not that bad. I mean,
so 12 pounds.
Yeah, keep going.
More than 12.
Yeah,
Okay,
more
well,
than 12
you're gonna need any 12 pounds of anything is gonna kill you. Okay, well, how about 32 pounds?
We're gonna go down. Drop 10, and you're there.
Really? So 22 pounds.
22 pounds of chocolate, and you're looking to die.
I think if you eat 22 pounds of angel dust, you'll die.
Pretty much. All right, hit me with your next question.
Okay, how many pairs of ribs do we have? You cannot touch your ribs.
Okay, I'm not touching my ribs. Hands are tied. How many pairs of ribs? I'm gonna guess 13.
Oh, so close. Okay, I'll give you one more.
Okay.
One more try.
11.
12.
12?
Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh,
Yeah.
all right. What about? I know there's some difference between men and women.
Yeah, men have an extra rib.
We have an extra rib.
No, this is biblical.
Oh, but isn't there? Oh, I don't know.
No, I don't think there is any differences.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Whatever. My next question. What's the sound of a whip crack?
It's the ultrasonic or supersonic wave.
Yeah. Well, what does that mean?
What does it mean? Okay, it's just when it's just like when a plane punctures through the sound barrier.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's the sound of it's called a sonic boom.
The sonic
sound
boom,
of the sound barrier being broken.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah. All right. We got a couple more minutes here.
Sure. Yeah. So okay, my question is, I think all of my questions are related to bones.
Oh, great.
Which part of our body has the most bones? It has about 1/4 of all the bones of our
Really?
body. Yeah. It's not an organ, I could tell you that.
Well, yeah. I mean, what kind of organ would have bones? What do you mean? Like, I want to say torso or something like that.
Okay, it's not the torso.
Okay.
It's a part of the body that has the most bones.
Okay. Wrist.
No.
Foot.
Foot. Yeah, the foot is just full of bones. It has both of our feet have about 1/4 of all of our body.
Really?
bones.
That's wild. Even including like all the ribs and all the vertebrae.
Including everything. Yeah.
Wow.
The feet are just condensed. They have tons and tons of bones in them.
I wonder why there's so many different bones. I guess there's a lot going on in the foot.
There's a lot going on in the foot. I mean, it's the feet support our entire.
Should we do one more question? Or
Sure. One more from you. Yeah.
Okay. This one's a quick one. What was the first animal sent into space?
The first animal.
Yeah.
Like mammal?
Animal.
Dog.
No.
Frog.
No. Animal. Doesn't have to be a mammal.
Okay. So it's not a frog or a dog.
Nope.
Chimpanzee.
Nope. That was the second. Or it wasn't chip. I think it was some kind of monkey.
Okay, some kind of monkey.
But that was the second.
Okay. Oh, was it the bear? The little woolly
A bear?
The
The first one was a bear.
That bear insect. The space bear that you can
It was a space bear. It was a space bear. No, it was fruit flies.
Really?
Yeah,
fruit flies? Out of all things.
In
besides fruit flies.
1947, yeah, 2 years before the monkey, we sent
Wow.
fruit flies up there.
Okay.
And they were recovered alive.
They brought them back.
They brought them back.
Oh my god, you
Get
sent
those
fruit
fruit
flies to
flies.
space.
Yeah.
Did they reproduce in space? That would be really interesting.
I don't know.
Huh.
If they set them up with
I bet
some
we have
rotting
fruit
fruit.
flies flying everywhere in
Yeah,
space.
exactly.
Now. You
That's-
can't control these things.
All right. Well, that's our show for this
Yeah.
week.
Wow, that hour just flew by.
Yeah,
huh?
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We hope you guys had some fun, learned a bit about colds and a bit about science,
Yeah, stay safe and tell your friends about the cold.
and about our show, Fudge the Data.
Yeah, fudge the data. We will not be here next week
Right,
because
yes.
Simon and I are going to a conference in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, this weekend.
Yeah.
So you'll be listening to some smooth music,
Yeah,
I guess. I
some
don't know.
sweet
You can listen
jams.
to something.
Yeah.
But the week after, we'll be here full force.
Yeah.
With an exciting topic. If you have any topics you want us to discuss, please email us, send us messages on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll discuss those as well.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for listening.
See you
Goodbye.
guys in 2 weeks.